The season is approaching very fast. Yeah, no, so we're just after Christmas. We've had a bit of a... I'm actually on call, which is nice, so I'm able to come here and just try and do as much as I can with the car before the season starts. What I'm doing today is I have got new longer shocks from Part Shop Max, so we're going to install those, keep the same spring rates, or maybe go down to 8 kg. I forgot what I've actually got in there, either a 10 or an 8. And then with the rear, we will be putting a longer rear spring in, a Swift 4 kg spring, and we're also going to be putting the GRP4, what are they called? Trailing arms. So obviously just to make sure that everything's adjustable, everything's good. It's bushed on one end and rose joined on the other, so it gets away from that peakiness. I've always used standard trailing arms up the top with bushes on both sides, so yeah, it'll be nice and solid and should go good, give it a little bit more response, and it should work in well with the 4 kg springs that I'm putting in the Swift. So what I do, there's a trick. You get CRC and you spray it on, not bright zinc, and then it comes off pretty easily. Penetration! Sweat. I'm sweaty.
At least you stopped changing spark plugs. What? I need a screwdriver. Can you see the bend in that?
I can't.
Yep.
Fucking bend you in a minute, mate. Thumbs are dead.
Whoa.
And what is very important, everything in life, there's a bit of length. Now the girth's the same, right? But at the moment, my shock has about 10 mil of engagement down on the cup here. So this is as far, you know, kind of high as I can go in the suspension compartment. So we got some longer shocks actually for an S13. Obviously the thread and everything should be the same. They're just a little bit longer and they're suited, or they're valved properly for SR anyway, which is perfect. So take this apart, put those in, give everything a clean up. I checked the top hats, they're fine, there's no play in them. And get them back in and readjust the height so the front sits a little bit higher. What I should have done is done all this and unlocked the collars and shit in the car. I didn't think that far ahead, did I? But hey, we're getting it done. Two. Fucking rinse and dry. So I'm a domesticated bitch. Gotta get both ends of the shaft. Good fucking. Good as new. Look at that. Look at that, buddy. Perfect. Three things at once here, Piers. Don't you fucking laugh at me. I saw it on the internet. Must work. This is really, really bad TV.
More angle. Yeah.
Because
I've lubed up a few ring pieces before, eh?
just the odd bits. Worst thing is with these sort of sleeves, old school kind of coilover setups, is when the customer, e.g. Keisuke, is like, hey, I just need you to pull the thing out and adjust it, and then it's seized in there. Sucks. Really sucks. And then they go, why did it cost so much to get it out? Because I had to use a really big hammer and a chisel. 2 dudes, 1 coilover. The thread is too slippery. Oh yeah.
We'll grab a straight edge.
Yeah, she's good, mate. Bang him in. I did the alignment myself. It looked pretty straight to me. Fucking way more fucking saucy angle on it, does it?
Tony's finally got the engine back together, ready to go in the hole at some point today. Me and Nathan are just finishing off some of the final little touches, like getting the brake lines in the car, seeing where everything's going to go, stuff that needs to be sort of done service-wise for the car to be ready to roll when it comes back. Because we're two weeks out. We lose a week next week, been at Sign Riders, so 3 days this week to try to push as much as we can to try to get every little bit done. So when it gets back, we just got to fire it up, spanner check it, tune it, and hopefully it all goes well. No problems. Fingers crossed, everything is here. That's the biggest hunt, is we pull this car apart and just put the puzzle back together.
Now it's time to put in a new box. This is a Nismo 6-speed reinforced cross mission, brand new from Japan. Good box, Nismo gears, Nismo synchros, Nismo selector. Going to go on our SR20 with our Nismo clutch.
Nismo Super Copper Mix. So what we've done, we had a 5-speed before. We were using the same clutch with the high clamp cover, same disc. However, with the 6-speed, you need to run a dual mass flywheel. This is the Nismo version that is a single mass, converts it to single mass. So we're running that this season. So bit different gearing in the 6-speed. 5th is actually 1-to-1, so it should be good with the 4.5 and the 15s. It's pretty much the same as having a 4.9 in a Sylvia with 18, so it should be quite good.
Alright, engine's finally in, turbo's in, manifold's on. All the fuel lines are about to be made up from the back of the car. I've just got the old loom, checked it all, pushed it through, and making sure everything still fits. Changed manifold, but everything, I made the links last time I made the loom, so we had a bit to play with, and it's going to work. So don't have to adjust any connectors or nothing. So looking good. Keep cracking on. Melmo's got a bit more fab to do, and once he's done, oil it, run an oil filter, configure the computer again, and crank it, and hopefully she fires first pop, and go from there, I guess. Alright, so last Friday we filled the tank with complete to the brim with fuel for the first time, and it sat for probably a good 4 or 5 hours, and then we noticed it was leaking out the bottom. So been a bladdered fuel cell from, I don't know, NASCAR from the 90s. The bladder's just failed in the seams, and it's leaking, this corner actually, leaking, dripping out, and then running down the bottom and coming out the front of that tank. So we now have a day to figure out what we're going to do, and JP's shot up to work today with a brand new plastic FIA tank. So now it's up to us to modify. I'm pulling out the insides of that to try and modify to fit into this, and then JP's going to try and figure out how we're going to mount this to the car now. So it's all on. We're going to get it running today.
We finally got to the end of finishing the engine bay of the A86, and it's actually changed quite a bit since the original car was built. So when Adam built the original car from C's Garage, it was made with a mid-mount, V-mount intercooler and radiator setup, which did look pretty cool. But what we went for this time was making it easy for the guys that are looking after this car at the track to be able to work on it and service it and things like that. So what we did was we stood everything up. I think I've explained this in a previous video. We've got the radiator and the intercooler and the oil cooler all stood up in sync now, which leaves a lot of room down the front of the car to work on it, which meant that I could start building all the tanks and the swirl pots and the overflows and finishing all the intercooler setup for it. And that's exactly what I've done. So if we start from this side of the car, our hot side, as you call it, I've built a turbo manifold to a specification that Keisuke kind of requested in the first place. Then we've added a 50mm wastegate onto it to make sure we've got some pretty optimal boost control down there, along with 3-inch dump pipe that attaches up to the new exhaust system that I've built, and then his custom turbo as well. Now the custom turbo is T3, so the manifold's T3, which means it's relatively easy to bolt on and off the car without actually having to take all the manifold off and everything as well, which means everything's pretty serviceable on this side, which is cool. And then I've gone ahead and started building all the intercooler piping for it. So we've gone for a 2-inch elbow off the turbo, so it's a 2-inch outlet that steps up to 2.5 into a 3-inch core, and then the 3-inch core through to a 3-inch pipe, and then back down to 2.75, which creates a bit of a venturi through the throttle body to make sure that this plenum is seeing a nice pressure at all times, especially when you're on the throttle pedal. Having the car run a little bit more power, we decided to go up an intercooler pipe size this time, because the car lives a lot of its life up high in the RPM range, up high in the boost range as well, which meant we were trying to just get a little bit more flow through it. And also this engine, now that it's all forged and pretty serious, can do 300 plus kilowatt with some meth fuel. You know, like it's going to be, yeah, it's going to be a pretty high horsepower motor compared to what it used to be. So everything's a little bit larger just to allow for that. So we'll see how we do with that when it comes to tune time. We fitted a gritty intake plenum, a genuine one, but the bolt hole size for it was actually for the 70mm throttle body. So we've had this drawn up by, funnily enough, Adam at C's Garage, this adapter plate, and Keisuke has then found a machinist to actually machine that up for us, and then I've welded it on, which means we're still running the stock standard non-turbo throttle body, which is the slightly larger throttle body. That kind of wraps up the intake side of things. It's got a 3-inch little knob jockey there, down to an Aeroflow carbon filter, and then moving to the cooling side of the car, I've built the radiator for it. The radiator is a Phoenix core that is actually originally suited to a Golf GTI, and I've cut the end tanks off of it and made new end tanks, and then also made new positioning for in and out. So yeah, down here. And what I've done is incorporated the swirl pot into the actual coolant neck off the side of the head down here, which not only keeps everything nice and tight to work on, but when I'm putting something together, I quite like the aesthetic of having everything engine related in a line. I don't like having lots of tanks everywhere and all on the sides of the engine. It's quite nice having the open space. So yeah, I've kept the coolant swirl pot nice and tight with the motor, runs under the CAS, and then the swirl actually loops around clockwise and into here, and it's actually quite effective. I did some testing with this before I finalized it to make sure that it was going to do what I wanted it to do. Originally I would have liked to have
brought the swirl up a bit further, so it does get a little bit more of that air out of the coolant, but unfortunately with how tight we've got with clearances with where the motor sits in regards to the bonnet and where this has to sit in regards to coming into the highest point of the radiator, this is the perfect spot for it. So that should do its job nicely, which would be cool. I've just pressure tested it to make sure that it doesn't leak, and it doesn't leak, so that's kapai. And then I've just done a little overflow bottle down here as well. This is a 2.5 inch overflow bottle with a nice spin-on aluminium cap. And that actually attaches to the radiator off a bracket as well, which means that you can take the radiator and the coolant overflow out all as one, which keeps everything serviceable, easy to remove. Less lines to take off when the car needs to be pulled apart because it's had a prang and we need to replace a radiator or something. And then coming over here, there's lots of little small fabrication bits in this engine bay. You know, we had to remount the remote thermostatic oil sandwich plate. We had to incorporate a blow-off valve this time. We had to incorporate the fuel pressure regulator somewhere where it was actually going to fit and you were actually going to be able to get all the lines on and off. We had to completely make remote clutch master reservoir and modify a clutch master cylinder so that this big gritty plenum can be run this time. And it's all come together pretty nicely. It's got a nice little catch can I've built here out of 1.5 mil aluminium, and it's got a baffle inside for the filter so that you're not trying to push oil up through the filter, and that sits there nicely. And then I've attached the fuel pressure regulator to the side of that, which actually turned out pretty cool. Aesthetically, I guess, you know, just nice dimple dyed plate up the front which attaches to the headlight mounting points, and then just a couple in the middle to keep it nice and secure. Other than that, it's a pretty basic little SI20 setup, aside from the motor being, you know, pretty serious now.
Shane reverse and everything.
Well, they don't talk to each other.
Good.
Dan's not in compliance with FT3199. Hey Dan.
Okay.
We still got one pack left there. Yeah, go for it.
We're not picking over that fast, eh? Whoa, pressure's going up. Got 1 PSI.
Pistons by that. What have you got the plumbing locked at then?
15.
15, okay. Okay, go. Crank at that engine.
Starting up the shield.
fucking pumping.
It does the things. Too much, maybe. It was doing a rolling burnout. Was it doing a rolling burnout, or was it just hitting the fucking fender?
Well, no, it definitely was. You could see it in the thing. The last couple were definitely the tire touching, but
yeah. So it goes very good. What we actually didn't do, we measured all the bump stops so it wouldn't hit the guard and that, but I think we only measured it off one side, not the other. So that's why it's still hitting on that side.
Can we do another run with the guard off? So
Yeah.
I can watch it?
It looks funny with just the cat there. West Auckland guard roll.
I am taking off the side skirt so I can get a jack under the car, and then I'm going to jack up the car and take the wheel off, and then I'm going to clearance the rear wheel top with a special machine.
And the intake temps are like 33 degrees.
How much boost we reckon to it? You want to
One. Well, that's 14 and a half.
We're going to go now. We can go more.
We can go more?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just doing every 20 kPa, so I'm going to do 4.2 it then. I was going to smooth it out a bit, just got a little bit of it at the top. But yeah, come have it, and it's not dropping off at the top.
So where it was peaking here, it was making it a lot earlier. Obviously smaller turbo, and this is holding it on. But we're there, and it ramps up. It's a little bit slower. It's ramping in at about 4. So that was like when this thing was running like really well. Like, you know, we get the ideal runs. It's usually about 310, 316. Like that was our pretty consistent. But I haven't seen it have a calibrate. They're only going to 6 because it's falling on its ass. So
There we go, 7.
yeah, 7.5, 7.4. Like it actually feels stronger. That's 268 wheel.
How much are you going to go?
3.
Go to 1.2 next.
So 3.
Should crack 300. The 8008Rs are unfortunately, well, the car is making so much jam, it's compressing the bump stops that we chucked in it and still managing to touch, so we're going to have to strap the car on even harder. It's the downside to having a rolling road, so we're going to take the spacers off so we can put the wheels a little bit more inboard so we can strop it down harder because it's just doing burnouts. So then the brakes, I think they were at 30 when they were on there, but I mean, dude, they're anyway, but you can see those kind of last runs. So I'm 1.4, I'm running really conservative 1.2. So 1.2, I'm running really conservative timing. Back to back, so right on top of each other. It was only that last one when it got to about 45. Yeah, it's consistent. Never was that consistent.
Whoa, 1 kilowatt.
For consistency, 344, 343, 343. A little bit down on that one, 338. That's only because it was getting hot. It was getting about those last couple of ones, like starting to run at 45 degrees, didn't make sense. Well, that's what you're going to see on the track, so I'm just trying to replicate it. So on 1.2 bar, but real conservative timing, we're only running 12 degrees at the top.
Should have given it a clutch dump in the middle of a run.
But yeah, that's consistent. The mixtures are perfect. Tweaking for the breathing, but yeah, I could probably put. I actually want to put another set of coils on there. I'll put the dwell back. Like with that dwell at 2.8, what it should be, it was missing. Like just before I was at the run at about -20 kPa, just sitting there cruising, you can see it go this. Like not. So obviously, I think put the dwell back down, went away. So 50 ignite saying that's the dwell you're supposed to run in that setup. So we're putting it down.
And we're nowhere near really maxing that setup out.
No, nowhere near. No. I actually think running it like this at a practice and giving it a bit of, give it a bit of slack probably going to help the engine to run it a bit. See? When we come back, we'll take out the ring on it, another breather, and then do it again. Just need to add some more breathing into it. Unfortunately, we're sort of 76 degrees now. That last rock was at 90.
That's why you get the circuit guy to do the cooling package on your drip car. It works. Yeah, we're experiencing a little bit of breathing with the car. Effectively, it's got the same breathing setup it had on it before, but with the new engine, different ring gaps, bigger turbo. We're seeing I didn't think it would, but it is. So the little XR is breathing a lot more than it used to, which is fine. Alex's car did the same thing. That thing's got 4 breathers on it. So when it comes back from sign running and its sort of test day, I'm just going to add another breather into it, help the little engine out a little bit more, and put a bigger filter on it, probably 2, just to make it a little bit happier. We're just seeing a little bit of smoke on the overrun pressure, so we'll get that sorted for Kes, but all in all, it's making phenomenal power, it's repeatable, and that's all that matters really. Pretty excited. What are we on? 1.2 bar, and we made 2 86 kilowatt wheels. So that turbo's good for 30 pound. The engine's not, but you know, we're not even stressing the turbo out. We're not stressing the cooling system out. Only next weakest point will be the clutch if it can hold the power as we keep putting the boost up. So we'll see how it goes.